Hello, Facebook world.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Therese here, and I am so excited because I have a special guest with me that I cannot wait to introduce you to. This is my good friend, Amber Romaniuk. I said it
You
right.
did it.
First go. All right, let me tell you a little bit about what Amber does. I have her handy bio right here, so I'm going to read it to you so you don't miss any of the goodness. So Amber is an emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. She's amazing, by the way, who helps professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. Her podcast, the No Sugar Coating Podcast, is amazing. Oh, are you still there?
Yep.
Well, my screen went weird, but you can
Oh,
see
yeah, we're good. I was just sitting really still.
my screen has disappeared. So I'm going to trust,
Oh,
since I can hear you, that we're still there. Okay, so I'm sorry about it. She's got an awesome podcast called the No Sugar Coating Podcast. You should check it out. You can find it on Spotify, by the way. And has over 500,000 downloads, over 200 episodes, and is listened to in over 82 countries. That's pretty amazing. Amber overcame her own emotional eating after gaining and losing more than 1,000 pounds and spending over $50,000 on binge food and spending 5 years balancing her hormones and digestion. She now helps others achieve body freedom so that they have the confidence and health to create amazing lives. This is incredible. So I'm bringing Amber on today, and again, I can't see Amber anymore, but I believe that
I'm
you're still
here.
there.
It's so weird.
I know, technology, thanks for the help. Okay, so I brought Amber on today because Amber and I have been talking a lot privately about ascension, and since ascension is something that I'm talking with you all about every day, Amber has a really unique perspective on it. She's going to help us understand it from the body perspective. And because so many of the ascension upgrades, even though they're happening on a cellular, they're happening on a cellular DNA level, of course, that's going to affect us physically.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we're necessarily prepared for what that does to us physically. And I think, I know for myself, it takes me out of whack a lot. And the fact that most of the time we're not really prepared for what it does to us on a physical level. And so I wanted to talk to Amber because she's been so amazing at helping me physically process ascension and look at it from different angles. And I wanted the opportunity to have this conversation publicly. So this is kind of like a chat where I get to pick Amber's brain, and she's going to help us think about things in because just because we're experiencing like a headache for example, just because we're having a headache doesn't necessarily mean when it comes to ascension, we can address it the way we would address a physical headache. So actually, let's start there. Let's just start there I'll try to think about some of the symptoms that are coming up, and maybe you can talk about your own experience, how
Mm-hmm.
you're addressing it, or what you would recommend.
Yeah, and I think this just brings honestly a whole new ball game to, what we experience physically, because even a lot of my clients are going, I'm feeling really good, I'm not emotionally eating, I'm, getting a lot of sleep. Why all of a sudden am I getting headaches? Or why all of a sudden am I getting lower backaches? Or why all of a sudden am I getting these random weird symptoms out of nowhere? And it's like, okay, let's, check the Schumann resonance, what's been going on, and where are we at today, what's been going on for the last few days. And that's where it's been so interesting that they're able to pinpoint their symptoms with whether it's like a 3D purge day or a 5D, light day, and to share my experience, and then some things to look at. So I, over the last couple of months, especially from your teachings, have been following the Schumann resonance very closely. And the day before a 5D spike, my lower back aches and I get tons of energy. And then the next day, and I can't sleep that night. I'm like so wired. And I think it's obviously there's ties to the nervous system, right? So then the next day, I still have all the energy. But what I notice is, you know, my digestive system like wants to essentially like cleanse everything out. And so I'm having way more bowel movements than I normally do. TMI, but I think it's important to share that because the cellular upgrades, that's part of, you got to get rid of the old for the new, right? So, and then after that goes away, it just calms back down. So for people who are getting headaches or lightheadedness or dizziness or digestive or whatever it is for you, I think it's important to first check in on some what are basic but just such vital needs to tend to. So are you drinking enough water? And ideally, if you can it be some kind of filtered water? You can even get the little wands that you can put right in your water bottle, and then it will mineralize your water, right? So when we're, sweating or peeing lots or eliminating a lot, we need to make sure we're replenishing our electrolytes because we need lots of minerals right now, especially magnesium. Magnesium is a relaxant as well, so it does help with stress during this time. And so I think, replenishing our mineral stores, and I know you talked about this last week, but the coconut water is really good. Also, though, electrolytes themselves, which is just, your blend of electrolytes that's maybe naturally sweetened, to just throw in your water, sea salt in your food, pink or gray sea salt, or even taking a bath and putting a ton of pink or gray sea salt.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And essential oils too. Throw your crystals in the bath. It will help to clear you, ground you, and just help assist with this whole process. So hydration and the minerals are so important because for a lot of people, they're not getting the hydration to a cellular level. So that's where adding the minerals.
This is where Amber helped
helps.
me so much because I was drinking a lot of water and it was like it was just going right through me.
Yeah.
Never felt hydrated. And it wasn't until I started working with you, I was having intense lower back pain. And every time I felt into it, I was like getting a combination of adrenal and kidneys, but I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong because in my head, I'm like, well, I'm hydrating.
Mm-hmm.
That should be good. So can you explain to me what happened? I mean, let's explain to them what happened to me there and why I was in so much physical, like especially lower back pain, because I think that could help people.
Yeah. So what we have to remember is the adrenal glands reside kind of like just below the mid back. And then your kidneys, of course, are on each side, and the adrenals are just above that. So from a nervous system standpoint, if you've had higher stress, if you've struggled with any form of emotional eating, if you're the kind of person who's got a perfectionist mindset, or you're over exercising,
or 2020.
Yeah, or 2020, right? The Great Awakening. Yeah. So any or all of the above may be going on for you, and that will throw your nervous system into overdrive. And what ends up happening when we have those stressors going on is we go into fight or flight mode, which means you produce more cortisol, and your cortisol comes from your adrenal glands. So if you have elevated cortisol or low cortisol, you may not realize it could be that lower backache. And so when your nervous system is in overdrive, you're also burning through your minerals more quickly, especially your magnesium, calcium, potassium, etc. And you're also burning through your B vitamins more quickly, which are the energy and anti-stress vitamins. So you're depleting your body. And then also because you're in that overdrive, you're not necessarily able to hydrate the water that you're drinking, even if it's the best water you can get. It may not be able to get in and hydrate to a cellular level because of all the stress going on, and we need the minerals to help with that. So we kind of see how it's like stress response, cortisol response, not able to recover and use minerals because you're continuing to deplete them. And so that's where sometimes, adding in the salts or the electrolytes or trace minerals, it's going to help you replenish what your body's just struggling to, build back up. So adding things like that in, if you're drinking lots of water, 2 liters plus a day or 68 ounces a day, and you're like, how come I'm feeling dehydrated? It's likely because you're not getting hydrated to a cellular level. So these things can really help.
It was such a game changer. And when you were describing it and you're saying no hydration, or you're not getting the hydration on the cellular level, whenever the team shows me our upgrades and they show me it going through the cells, they show me the cells spinning super fast. And they said they're spinning water out of them. And I just see these like really fast, tiny washing machines, just like spin cycle, but the spin is so intense that the water is like being spun out. So it absolutely, I didn't connect the dots. I mean, I didn't realize that when you're just drinking water, like, and that's what you think you're supposed to do. And, in my case, it's filtered water. I'm filtering the water, which means I'm also taking a lot of those minerals that would have been in the water naturally out,
Right.
which obviously means you need to replace them, but it just didn't connect. I'm like, I'm drinking good quality water and I'm drinking a lot of it and I'm not hydrated, which would also, now that I think about that, wouldn't that also account for the headaches as well? Because I haven't had
Yeah.
headaches since I've been taking the trace minerals. I just had to
Good.
put that in there.
For sure, 100%. So if you're dehydrated, if you're depleted in your minerals or some B vitamins, that can definitely contribute to the headaches. The other thing that can contribute is for people who maybe they're going, you know what, I really want to work on my health. Maybe I should do a cleanse or a detox. But innocently, your liver is overburdened and you already have an overwhelmed adrenal gland system and nervous system. The last thing your body wants you to do is to try to detox your liver and go on a bunch of like chlorella and spirulina and liver supports, because if your cup's already spilling over with toxins and stress and now you just add another stressor, your body's just going to give you more symptoms. So you could have lower energy, headaches. You could, again, that hydration, the lower backache, because now your kidneys are even more overburdened trying to filter everything through. So this is actually, yes, naturally fall is a great time to gently detox, but this may not be the right time if you're struggling with hormone imbalances or adrenal issues, because you have to deal with that before you can go in and even do gentle support, because it's just too much for the body to do it all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I'm giggling because this is literally what I did. That was literally my response to, oh, we're upgrading and oh, things are hurting. That must mean I have toxins, which
Yeah.
is probably true. There are toxins definitely happening as we're, like you said, we're going through sort of a 3D purge,
Yes.
moving into a higher vibration, and we're purging not only on the spiritual, emotional, mental level, but there also is that physical detox. But I giggle because it's exactly where my brain went. I need to detox. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the right thing to do, and that's exactly what happened to me. I just went into more discomfort and more pain, and my body was almost in a type of, shock. It felt like shock.
Yeah.
So and Amber, you were so awesome in helping me like redirect that. And she was like, step away from the chlorella. It was really hard too. I'm
Yeah.
like, are you sure? And she's like, yes.
Yeah. And that's, where there's kind of this like, in a sense, we've been taught in this ego-based society of like, just go buy the cleanse kit, or like just take tons of liver support, or just go on a juice cleanse. And whilst I respect if that may work for some people, but with a lot of the women I work with, there's so many imbalances going on. You've got hormones, you've got nervous system stuff, you've got digestive stuff, you've got emotional eating, stress, overbooked schedules. And so to just go and buy a box cleanse or hop on a juice cleanse, it honestly may do more damage than good. And you'll know if you start something and you get really sick and people go, well, that's supposed to happen before you get better. But if your symptoms are continuing to nag on, you may be throwing your hormones more out of whack. You may be, just causing more stress to the entire body, because we have to kind of address things in layers, and then you throw stress in there, right? And from an energetic and spiritual like frequency standpoint, you may think, oh, but I'm taking these supplements and it's going to cleanse my liver and that's going to help raise my frequency. Yeah, but if you have all these other things going on, it may actually drop, because now you're over, detoxing and you're releasing too much stuff into the body, but the body doesn't have the capacity to handle it. So then your energy drops. You get the headache, you get the bloating, the bowels are irregular. Maybe you're waking up in the middle of the night, sleep, stuff. That's all signs of hormone and liver stagnation. So that's where we have to go. Okay, if you're overwhelming your body, you're not going to necessarily increase your frequency. You may lower it innocently by accident, thinking you're trying to do good. But we have to not overwhelm the body, because especially if you're sensitive, if you're an empath, if you naturally find yourself in a higher frequency, you got to go really gentle with detox. The more sensitive emotionally, energetically you are, the more gentle you have to go with your body. And I've learned that. You're learning that. Trust me, anyone I know is sensitive and very empathic and things like that, you got to go really slow.
Okay, there's so many good things to unpack. I've got like 5 more questions. So let's look at sleep, because honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like one of the things that my clients ask me a lot, or friends, they're like, man, I couldn't sleep. The sleep part is really tough for a lot of people right now. So maybe we should break down what could be going on there, maybe from dealing with the 3D level with stress. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's a highly stressful time for many people. There's a lot of uncertainty in life
Mm-hmm.
for people. And then let's deal with it maybe from the higher density level with what does this mean when the sleep issues start? Okay, so let's
Mm-hmm.
start with 3D,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the stress part. What's going on there?
Yeah. So essentially what happens for a lot of people is there's a lot of stress going on. And again, you have to remember when that is going on, you're producing more cortisol, and cortisol is that stress hormone. You're only supposed to produce it in small amounts and then come back to, your homeostasis, but we've got all sorts of things going on that are contributing. So I often see,
Break those down a little bit too, or if you're about to. I just want to like hit some
yeah.
that really contribute to that.
Yeah, definitely. So, a lot of time on technology, especially right before bed, or, that's where a set of blue light glasses is really good to help with some of that stimulation because it will impact cortisol levels. Heavy caffeine intake, heavy processed food intake, especially if you're someone who's bouncing back and forth between diets and restriction and emotional eating. And for people who are wondering, emotional eating to me is any reason for eating other than physical nourishment. So that's a big stress on the body. Negative self-talk, right? You're not happy with your weight or your body image. That anytime you think or speak negatively of yourself, you're putting yourself into a stress response. So that plays a huge role. It could be dehydration. It could be, you're overbooking your schedule and you're not leaving any time to take care of yourself. It could be that you're rebelling and staying up late every night, watching TV or whatever you're doing, and then you're only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, right? So those are some, common things that I see really impact cortisol from an environmental standpoint. And then a lot of digestive issues will also directly impact cortisol as well. So that's why it's so important to understand there's external stuff and then there's the internal, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual that will play a role. But any of that will make you produce a stress response. So if you have a lot of those variables going on all the time, you produce more cortisol. And so for some of you, maybe too elevated, and for some, it may be too low. So you have the adrenal fatigue or the adrenal burnout. And some of the most common symptoms of this are things like abdominal weight gain. Maybe you can sleep all you want, but you never wake feeling rested. You're tired all day. Afternoon energy lull, that's a very common sign. Cravings for salt, again, because your body's craving the minerals that you're burning through. And for some, it's carbs, headaches, lower back aches, moodiness, brain fog is another big symptom of adrenal imbalance, more sensitive digestion. So there's more, but those are some of the more common symptoms that I see. So when it comes to sleep, what I find happens with that is naturally your cortisol is supposed to be the highest in the morning and then slowly come down through the day, be the lowest in the evening, right? That's your circadian rhythm, your sleep clock. And then when you wake back up to help you wake up and get your day going. But what I find happens when we have all these different factors going on is often the cortisol will get skewed. So if you're having troubles falling asleep, that is a very common sign that likely your cortisol is too elevated before bed. And instead of, it's kind of like a switch flips, instead of now your body going, oh, it's time to go to sleep, let's produce melatonin and help you fall asleep quite quickly. Your body's going, oh no, like there's so much stimulation, we got to stay awake. And so if it's taking you more than a half an hour, 2, 3 hours to fall asleep, that's definitely a sign likely that your cortisol is too high before bed for whatever those reasons are. If you're waking, between 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, that's also a sign of potential cortisol being off and thyroid being off. And between more this like 3, 4 window, that's liver. So it's interesting how the wake ups and the trouble falling asleep or trouble staying asleep are again cues of internal potential imbalances that are going on in the body.
So between 3 and 4, that's most likely liver imbalance. And
Yeah.
then what was right before that? What's
Thyroid. So like kind of the 1, 2, yeah.
wow. So that's something cool to note if you are struggling with staying asleep, like definitely start checking the time,
Yeah.
because that, as Amber is telling you, it can give you a good indication of what body part might need TLC and
Yes.
attention. And as now I've got the chance to work with Amber, it's been amazing. I strongly suggest finding someone who actually knows what that means when your liver needs attention, because again, self-diagnosis, as I am so guilty of. So only love people. But what the problem with self-diagnosis is that oftentimes we're making a guess. And in my case, I was like, oh, detox, that's what I need, right? And I went like all in to the detox and end up being feeling more uncomfortable and in more pain and more miserable because of that. So I definitely would say, definitely take note of what you see, but then find someone like Amber has an amazing podcast, the No Sugar Coating Podcast. You can check that out on Spotify. And of course, you can always, I'll make sure that I put Amber's information in here when I post it on YouTube so that you will be able to contact her directly. But definitely find somebody who knows what they're talking about. Don't go to the grocery store supplement aisle and try to like self-diagnose. I'm so guilty, so guilty. Even now, Amber's like, what are you doing? Let me see that. What is that? I don't know if you need that.
Yeah, so the sleep's a big one. And so then pertaining to going to more the 5D, I think a big part of this is our natural essence. Like, we're meant to have a lot of energy, right? We're meant to feel a state of high frequency, happiness, joy, love, gratitude on a regular basis. And so if you're finding, I'm sleeping well, but then when I see these, spikes on Schumann, or there's just certain days where I can't figure out why I can't fall asleep, but I'm not stimulated, or, I'm up in the middle of the night and I didn't drink, too much water, or I don't have any imbalances. Well, likely it could be tied to your ascension symptoms. And I think part of what happens is, as we're upgrading, obviously it takes time for the mind and body to reconnect with each other. So it's like maybe you're learning all these new things from an intellectual level and you're so excited about it and your body's going, but it's going to take me time to catch up. So part of it is allowing your time to process emotionally, physically, mentally, energetically as this time is happening, and try to not put too much on your plate because it could overstimulate you. I think the other thing is, because we're taking on all this light and maybe naturally we're just not used to it because this has not been happening for very long. I think part of our new natural state is to be more energized, potentially to not necessarily need as much sleep, because we're in a higher frequency, higher vibration. Like even on the days where there are those 5D spikes and I, wake up at 3 a.m. and I can't fall back to sleep, and I know it's not my liver because I've dealt with it, my energy is tenfold the whole day, right? Versus if I were to wake up at 3 a.m. when it's kind of on a lull, then I will be tired that day. And so for me, I think I've been able to associate that, right? So I think it really gives us energy, these spikes.
It definitely does. I'd like to share with you what my team is telling me is happening to us on how we're changing. And then I'd like you to sort of feel into that and see what your own intuition is telling you about what could be happening in the body. So what the team has explained to me is that we're moving from a carbon-based life force to a crystalline plasma energy life force. Okay, so we're literally like maybe cells at a time, maybe parts at a time, and there's an energy essence that's coming in. It's an overlay that's happening, we're moving into. So that what they explained to me is that we are hydroelectric beings. And then they said that we become there's more of an electric essence, which might explain the increase in energy that we might feel as we get these upgrades. They said that we don't have all the plasma in play yet, right? It's coming in. And they said that our bodies are naturally holding more fat, and that this fat mimics the plasma. They said it's the closest thing on a carbon level, on a 3D level, that we have to this new plasma light body coming in. So that it has this capacity to store energy, which is electricity, and water in the same kind of like cellular structure, is what they're saying. So there's a tendency to hold on to fat cells, but not necessarily because you've done anything to increase the fat. It's that you need that to make this smoother transition. So I just want to hand that back to you and see what you're feeling into that.
Yeah, 100% I agree. And I think that's where it's always so interesting to, you know, because our ego can take over and go, oh, what's wrong? I'm gaining weight, or why can't I lose weight? And to catch that self-talk. And I encourage you to have compassion for your body and to take a step back and observe and get curious and go, maybe, yeah, why is my body needing to protect herself? Because I really see weight as a protective mechanism. And if we're going through a time that humanity has never been through before, and all of these things are so new for all levels of our body, all the five planes,
Yeah.
you have to know your body might be a bit confused and going, I don't really, I know what's going on because my body's really intelligent, but at the same time, my body's like, there's so much going on. There's so much to process. So
Can I
maybe
add
I'm going to
that?
protect.
I want to add to that because what you said is actually incredibly potent. So in Dolores Cannon's work, and you guys know I talk about Dolores Cannon all the time. You've got to check out her work. She's had clients through hypnosis make the point over and over again. This has never happened before in the history of humanity, and it might actually be the first time in maybe this local galaxy that we're in that this has ever happened, meaning it's the very first time that we've ever been able to ascend while in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Every other time, and this is also in the Law of One material, ascension looked like death. It wasn't death. It wasn't death. It was a reset. They had to pull us out of the body. The body vehicle we were in had to die, and the consciousness with everything that's going on was like moved into a new structure. That any time that we made this big leap in evolution of humanity, that's what had to happen. They could never bridge it. And they've actually, in other texts in the Book of Secret Knowledge, they talk about the fact that they tested this, that they call them in Shambhala, the White Brotherhood. They're a higher density frequency group, and they have worked with certain members of humanity who were willing to test if the body could handle this much light code energy, if it could handle it. So there have been people throughout history who have willingly agreed, who wanted to take on the amount of energy and see if the body could handle it. And it is very, it is a not an easy ride, but because there have been a few human volunteers, in our lifetime, it has allowed us to have an easier time than they did. They went into full, complete, like shutdown mode. Sometimes they went into what looked like a very deep depression while they were processing.
Right.
And I know that some people experience depression as we process, but to the mass level, we're not experiencing that while going through an intense amount of energy. So what we're seeing reflected in our external world with all the mass changes is merely reflecting back what is happening to each and every one of us individually as we're ascending. So you nailed it when you said that the body might be scared because it's never ever happened before,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's where it's so important to have so much compassion and love for your body. You know, if you've had a history of being critical of your body, or you feel like you're not at your natural set point, because that's a huge reason why. And there's a lot of external environmental things going on in the world right now where you may just be kind of like a little bit like, okay, your body just knows because she can feel your thoughts and emotions, obviously down to a cellular level. The intuition is there. Intellectually, again, you may be learning a lot. Your ego's there going, oh, I don't know. And then the real you's like, yes, this is so exciting, right? So it's like it's like a big emotional roller coaster. So one thing I always say though is that your body always has your greatest good in mind. Your body is always trying to heal. It's just that unfortunately our ego mind gets us in the way with self-sabotage with food, or staying up late, or getting frustrated if we get physical symptoms. And we've been conditioned, right, by society to fit a certain mold, and like, oh, but then go eat this like fast food because it's on TV and it's so, right? So it's like everything's kind of backwards and not necessarily set up to help us with our health, if you're just watching TV, or, depending on the content you're consuming. So I think it's so important that we spend time really learning how to listen to our bodies, because as you build awareness, you'll naturally start to know what your body needs, whether it is the minerals, or you need more carbs, or you need more fat or protein, or more sleep, or whatever it is. But until we tune in, it's really hard for us to know what we need or why the body may be hanging on to the protection. And there's usually multiple reasons.
That's so good. And what I want to talk about next is I want to talk about the ego, because this is an important piece. But before we move into that, I just want to, since we were just talking about sleep and how important it is, and I know there are a lot of factors, and I definitely agree we should not self-diagnose, but what could people do? Like if someone's
Mm-hmm.
watching this and they're like, well, I want to help myself set
Yeah.
myself up for better sleep, what are things that they could do that are both um, soothing and helpful in a 3D way, but also assisting ascension,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like having a positive impact on the higher vibration.
Yeah, so I think some easier things to start with. Number one, try to not drink water or beverages right before bed because you'll be up going pee, right? Like some people just instantly are like, oh, I have to get up and pee every night. I'm like, well, let's just pull the water back an hour or so. Another one is if you're finding that you're, wanting just some extra assistance to calm down in the evening, a lavender essential oil or some kind of a relaxed or sleepy essential oil in your diffuser or on your wrists and your pillow and things like that. It just essential oils are so great for calming, and they're also great for the raising of the frequency. Also, magnesium before bed is great, and that's also a great one for decalcifying the pineal gland. So magnesium, you could do like a capsule or the calm, because it relaxes the mind, the muscles, and the body, and does help with sleep. I know that people use it for different things, but I know sleep is great. EFT tapping, so good to do before bed because it's so good for calming the nervous system down. And then, likely you're tapping out anything negative and tapping in positive, and you're just filling your subconscious with incredible things to think about before bed, or some deep breathing or meditation, or maybe you need to do a 5-minute journal dump and just get the things out of your brain onto the piece of paper to just help you go, okay, it's here. Now I won't forget anything, and it'll give you the peace of mind. From a food standpoint, be aware if you're sensitive to caffeine, because if you're like me, I can't eat chocolate after 2 p.m. I can't do coffee or anything caffeinated because I'd be awake all night. Maybe you're not sensitive to, but for me, my body doesn't metabolize it like some people. So be aware of just like caffeine time frames, or if you need to pull back a bit on caffeine. And then I think as well, it's important to make sure that for your blood sugar, because blood sugar can impact cortisol, which can keep you awake. So making sure that you're not eating right before bed, but also that you're not eating too far away so that you go to bed hungry. I'm a big believer in, if you finish your dinner and you need a snack, have like a piece of fruit or something basic that'll break down more quickly. So don't deny yourself, but ideally don't eat right before bed because your body's not going to be able to rest as deeply because you're also, digesting. So, those are some things from self-care, checking in on caffeine, magnesium essential oils, that you can definitely try for starters. If you're doing those things and you're going, I'm really struggling to fall asleep, this is where you may want to, potentially explore the path of getting some hormone testing done, or delving a bit deeper into some of the symptoms if you're experiencing any other symptoms that I've been talking about, because sometimes we can do all the great things but we're still struggling, and that's where we have to look at maybe a deeper dive into what's going on internally.
Is it okay for people to take melatonin before bed without being
Yeah, so
like,
you can do that. Yeah, for sure. You could definitely take melatonin, and know your body is not going to forget how to make melatonin if you take it. It will not become reliant on it. A lot of people get worried about that, but your body, again, is this resilient, brilliant vessel. Your body knows how to, produce this. As an example, not with melatonin, but magnesium. My food addiction, I had really damaged my intestinal lining so bad that I couldn't move my bowels on my own for 7 years. And so I had to take magnesium, like 2,000 milligrams of magnesium and 2,000 of meg citrate every night to have that happen. Um, and so people told me, oh, you're going to have to take that for the rest of your life because now your bowels are probably sluggish. And I'm like, no. And so I had to do some deeper work and address some other things. And then I didn't need it anymore. So it just goes to show you, like, your body will rebuild, but sometimes we need to just support a bit more. And then
right?
our body will tell us when the body doesn't need those items anymore.
It just reminds me of the saying of like, you know, we can't keep repeating the same behaviors and expecting a different result
Yeah.
from our body. So if we're like I tend to be, I'm an Aries and I push, right? Like I want I want it now. I want it yesterday.
Yeah,
And so
everybody
my whole thing
does.
is like, exactly, a little bit more, just a little bit more magnesium in there will get the job done or something like that.
Right? Yeah.
I've really
Yeah.
had to learn that, but the end result for me was always ultimately pain, always physical discomfort or pain, because I'm pushing. And so I've had to learn that my body is resilient. But it's hard to be resilient when you have somebody bullying you constantly,
Mm,
even if it was
yeah.
unintentional.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
constant.
Yeah. And we really have to listen because our mind goes, oh, just do a bit more or just push yourself harder. Like you need to, or maybe you need, you need to detox a bit more or whatever you're doing. But if your body speaks to you as symptoms. And so if your body's going, here's this symptom, now I'm going to make you tired. I'm going to make you a bit, nauseous or dizzy or like more bloated or whatever it is, you really have to listen because your body's going, hey, I'm trying to get your attention. This is too much. If it wasn't too much, you wouldn't get all the symptoms,
That's
right?
a really good point. And part of the social programming that we're all trying to break, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and this really kind of kicked on in the 2000s and it really increased is this, you know, live hard, play hard mentality,
Yes.
right?
Yep. The hustle.
It's kind of hyper masculine energy
Yeah.
that we're all being forced into. And of course, this is the return of the divine feminine. And the divine feminine it's a stationary energy. And I don't mean to say that that it doesn't have movement or that it's stagnant. What I mean is that it will wait. It
Mm-hmm.
will come to me. I will magnetize it to me. Whatever is for me is coming to me. I don't have to push or hustle
Yeah.
or go get it. It's coming to me if I practice my stillness and patience and
Yeah.
allowing that to happen. So I kind of feel like just naturally we're all going to go that way anyway because
Mm-hmm.
the pendulum swung too hard and push, drive.
Yeah. And that's why so many people do have adrenal fatigue and hormone imbalances. And I swear to you, like I've worked with over 1,000 women in the last 7 years, and I had not had one person come back with all good blood work right off the bat. There's always adrenal issues, there's always thyroid issues, estrogen dominance, nutrient deficiencies, high inflammation. There's one or all of the above going on. And I'm working with women from age 20 to 75. So it's not like it's just a certain age range. And so if that doesn't tell you that, again, we've been so conditioned to be in this go hard or go home mentality, our bodies are not set up for that. Because if they were, you wouldn't see all those imbalances going on.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I think that's a really good segue kind of going into the ego.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really tricky area because as you work on dismantling your ego, as you work on becoming more of your authentic self, which is not ego,
Mm-hmm.
you come up against the traps and walls that the ego has created. And oftentimes we don't even know. I
No.
shared this story. I shared a story on my, in a group last week about the fact that there were, there were media hits against spiritual people. They were really attacking that and how it triggered me. I was talking about letting go of being triggered, and that's something you can find on YouTube, but getting over being triggered. And one of the things that we need to discover is whatever's triggering us is actually here to help us grow.
Mm-hmm.
And what is being triggered? And Amber, I'm going to hand that right to you because I know you know the answer. So what is actually being triggered there?
Oh man, so many potential things, but this is the beauty of it. And then I'll dive deeper is when something comes up, there is a beautiful opportunity for you to observe it and decide if you want to, learn from it and actually then dissolve or alchemize it, right? Because that's another huge part of everything going on. We're alchemizing so much ego-based stuff. And so you on your own unique journey have the ability to do the same thing. And so I think first of all, let's understand what the ego is. And it really is the self-sabotaging or the left brain mindset that has been heavily focused on. And so ways you can tell when you're in your ego from an emotional, energetic, physical standpoint. So you're in some form of negative self-talk. You're in fear, worry, anger, frustration, sadness. And it's not to label those emotions bad or wrong, but it's to observe that, wow, I am in this mood. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. I want to blame other people for my problems. I don't want to take responsibility. Resistance, huge ego, procrastination, negative self-talk. I'm not good enough. I don't feel worthy. Picking apart your body, judging other people's. These are all aspects of ego. Okay. Perfectionism is ego. So, ways you can tell in your body when you've given your power away to your ego, your energy drops. Maybe you're just all of a sudden you feel a flush out of your body. Your frequency drops, your vibration drops. Okay. Maybe you feel a tightness in your chest, or you feel a knot in your stomach, or you get a bit of a headache. But usually there's some kind of a physical cue that will happen, as well as the energy feeling like it's dropped.
Okay.
Maybe then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I feel uncomfortable. I don't like feeling my emotions. And then maybe that for you is an emotional eating thing. And then you go and you want to numb or check out with food. Okay. Emotional eating is a self-sabotaging ego-based behavior. Diets, because I'm trying to have control for fear of losing control of my body, even though you're out of control. And what's below that is the not feeling good enough. So that whole battle with food, weight, body image, overeating, undereating, and that back and forth, that's all ego-based. And that came from conditioning you got from either your family, your friends, or the content. So there's that aspect of it. There's the aspect of lack mentality, which is ego, right? Not having enough, not making enough money, not having enough food, all of that stuff. And then the external influences from what you're watching that then can, maybe you're having a great day and then you see a video or you see a photo and it just, So
Right.
that's ego. When you're in your power, you feel a state of peace, you feel a state of calm, confidence, love for yourself, gratitude, compassion, joy. You can be curious, or you can get to a state of neutrality where you can just observe something but not have any kind of reaction. Maybe you have then more of a response in deciding how you're going to handle a situation. You'll feel more energized. You're likely not going to feel any, kind of tightness or tense in the body. You'll likely feel more that your body's more at ease. Your shoulders probably sit back more easily. Your breathing probably will be deeper versus more shallow when you're in your ego. Your nervous system is calmer because you're in your power. So it's more positive thinking, and you're more mindful when you are in your power. So you'll slow down and eat more mindfully without distractions. You'll say nicer things to your body. You'll probably go out and be more complimentary to other people. You'll be like, I can do it. I can do anything. You'll feel unstoppable. And you'll really sit in a deeper trust, not only with yourself, but with just everything going on in the world and just trusting being on the path that you're on. So I find with the ego, those are some of the ways to tell the difference. There's obviously more,
Right.
but there's really those two sides. It's to not judge yourself when you're in your ego, because from what I've come to learn, your ego is also a teacher.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
it brings great gifts, often through pain and struggle, but still absolutely game-changing gifts if we're listening.
100%, because after you go through that experience of that fear or worry or whatever it is that happened, and you look back, you'll go, wow, I learned a lot from that.
Yes.
I learned a lot from that failure. I learned a lot from that conflict, or I learned a lot from going through that experience. And then you can actually thank your ego and move on more empowered with more awareness and tools in your toolkit. And that's what this journey is all about. It's just like the growth and, allowing yourself at your pace to be where you need to be on the journey. And I think that's so important to remember, especially when we've been in such a quick fix, want everything now society mentality.
Which feeds the ego, which is all about conditioning and feeding the ego. Absolutely. So to add spiritual level to everything that Amber is saying, what you've heard me talk about the natural timeline, which you could akin to the higher or 5D timeline. That's other ways that people talk about it. I call it the natural timeline because this is what we really are. Mm-hmm. It's the true nature of what we really are. And then I talk about the false timeline, which is, you could look at it as the negative control system. You could look at it as lower, 3D. One of the things I pointed out is that the group that controls the false timeline, they're very interconnected to it. They believe in it. It's their reality. where they're coming from. One of their more ancient names is the cult of personality. That's one of the more ancient names of the group that created this false finite timeline. And it absolutely is ego driven. And it's mirrored inside our own life experience, because the ego wants you to believe that this is what you are.
Yeah.
You are this identity, right? Like you are for me, it was the activation of my identity as a spiritual person, and that was being attacked. But what the gift of that was, when I had the tantrum and I came to the realization is, oh my gosh, this is where I'm attaching to the false timeline. This is where I believe that I am an aspect of personality, rather than going back to my true full nature, which is unlimited.
Yeah.
And contains it all, right? It's not this one aspect of myself. And the interesting thing that, that ego is very smart. They say our ego is as smart, if not slightly smarter than us, because it's all about survival. That's part, its whole thing is, I have to survive. It does not want to be gotten rid of.
No.
And when we go after it like that, it will fight back hard, because that's not the way forward. Really, you have to, like you said, you have to find the place where you can be at peace with it, or understand it, and kind of hold it while not letting it operate for you. But the ego's whole thing is survival, and in this false timeline reality, it thinks it is us. And this is what, if we're in the false timeline, we really identify as all these different aspects of ourselves. We have an avatar we create that's based on this, and of course the avatar is imperfect, because the rules of the false timeline always change. These are those rules where you have to look a certain way, you have to have a certain amount of money, status is important, right? Like
all the external stuff,
all of it. So the ego moving through this is definitely, I say that it's more important to make friends and listen to it than to try to reject it or get rid of it, because it will fight us more when it feels us doing that. So what are some tips that you can share about how to do that? Because obviously bringing awareness to the situation is a good start, but then what would you recommend?
So like you just said, what you resist persists. So yes, the more you fight with it and trying and get it away and push it away, the louder it's going to get, and the bigger the conflict is going to be. So I think the first key is to be aware of, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling out of my power. Okay, well, what triggered me to give my power away? Is it something someone said? Did I see something? Did I see myself in the mirror and now I'm, being critical of myself? Did I not sleep well last night? Did I have it too booked of a day? Because I think one of the biggest things that I see for people is because of the perfectionism and the people-pleasing mentalities, right? That space of insecurity that's going on, they're over giving to everything and everyone else, and therefore under giving to themselves. And so that creates that mass overwhelm, right? And so overwhelm is ego-based, and the ego loves it because it's like, keep throwing stuff on your plate, because then you're going to get more tired and more frustrated and more unhappy and more bloated, and then I can thrive more, right? So the ego thrives off of the suffering.
To hear that part of the conversation. I'm sure if I heard you're going to be more bloated if you do this, I'd be like, wait a minute.
Right? Yeah. So the ego thrives off of that, and then it becomes a comfort zone to be so busy and rely on other people to validate that you're good enough. So that's all ego, because it's external. So when that's going on, you get more depleted. You may feel more puffy and inflamed. You may have more physical symptoms like bloating, cravings, maybe weight gain, brain fog. And as you get those symptoms, you become more frustrated with your body and reactionary, because now you have more symptoms. But why I have to go here with you is because it's so important to understand how, when we given our power away to our ego and then we become reactionary to our physical state, you may physically see your symptoms amplified as well as your mood. And the thing with that's important to understand is, coming back to the schedule, is we have to be willing to dedicate time and space for ourselves. It is so important. We are not robots. We are these divine human beings who are here having this, you know, human experience, our spirits in our bodies. And I think it's just so important to remember we're not a robot. You can't put sand in a Ferrari. You can't just let your body go and survive off caffeine and sugar all day. It's not going to work for very long. So first thing, we got to look at the schedule. You've got to be willing to open up time and space for self-care, whether that's getting out into nature, meditation, journaling, tapping, breathing, laughing, doing something creative if you're an artist, or music or dance or whatever that is, connecting with others, you know, that you feel safe and comfortable around. But self-care and time to explore your emotions, to learn how to build awareness of your ego, you know, explore your thoughts and feelings, and to just know that it's safe to feel is so important. So that
That's
time,
a big one.
it's
Safe to
huge.
feel. Yeah.
Yes, it's safe to feel. We've been so conditioned to not feel, shut it off, and suppress it with different, you know, self-sabotaging behaviors. So that's why, you know, if it feels really uncomfortable, for starters, you baby step into it. This isn't about like forcing yourself all of a sudden into a really, you know, intensive self-care routine. It's like, okay, I'm just going to start with 5 or 10 or 15 minutes today, and I'm just going to grow it as I go. Because guess what? You'll come to love it, and you'll start to feel the effects of how self-care is going to help you take your power back from your ego. And then it's going to be like non-negotiable, and you're going to be like, boundaries, because I need and want this time. It's so important for me on all levels. So self-care and bringing balance to your schedule is so important for navigating the ego. Another big piece is addressing self-worth, body image, and your relationship with food. Because let me tell you, when you're struggling with emotional eating, and then you've had a, you know, been conditioned by diets, I got to count calories, I can't have carbs, or, you know, whatever things you've inherited and learned from diets, so important that you can learn to lovingly unravel that, or get help unraveling that, and building peace with food in your body. Because if you're afraid of eating certain foods for fear of losing control, if you have all these diet rules, again, that comes from control. And as long as we're coming from control, there's fear below that, and there's insecurity,
Yeah.
which comes back to self-worth. So working on building that healthy relationship with food, overcoming emotional eating, learning how to cope with your emotions in healthy ways, smashing your scale, get rid of it, go by the way your clothes fit and by the way you feel in your body. This is a holistic health journey. This is not about a weight loss journey, because as soon as it's just about that, it can fuel all these other behaviors, which is all ego based. So that's
Right.
a big piece to address, because guess what? As you learn how to cope in healthy ways, and you know, start to create time for yourself, and you're nourishing your body, as well as allowing room for mindful indulgence, because it's not about perfection or restriction, you feel that void, that lack of self-love that's within you. And as you do that, you're more in your power, you're not fighting with your body, so your ego is more quiet, right? And so that's beautiful, because as you do that, your frequency raises, your intuition gets stronger, your intuitive spiritual gifts will heighten and really come online, or come online more. And that's going to also help with your ascension, because now you're not trying to deal with emotional eating, bouncing back onto a diet, punishing yourself with exercise, and being like, oh, well, until I'm this weight, blah, 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 nothing's going to be great, right? So if you can get those things dealt with, your ascension likely will probably be maybe easier. I don't know if that's the right word, but just maybe it'll feel more, you know, you'll have more peace with it, because you'll go, I'm not fighting with all these other things that are stressing me out.
Right.
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 So,
I mean,
yeah.
it's so, everything that you're saying is, I mean, it's like, yes, yes, yes. My heart's like, yes, yes, yes. What dawned on me talking to you was how I have not paid attention to one of the biggest points that we already talked about, but it totally surpassed my awareness, because the body connection to this ascension is kind of key and critical, and something that we don't think about, because we think about, like, I'm thinking about it predominantly from the spiritual point of view, because that's where I like to go, right? The spiritual point of view. But really, understanding the body and the relationship to the body might be one of the most critical pieces of us getting ascension, because if it really is the first time we ever do it in a physical body, one of the things that's going to happen is, they say that the soul, the seat of the soul, is like up here. It's about 8 inches or so above our heads. That's the soul star chakra. They said that in ascension, what happens is, this energy it moves into the body and sits in the center of the heart, the secret, or the sacred chamber of the heart. And that's embodiment. It's going to be the first time this spirit moves into the body. So this is really, it's just dawning on me, like it's all coming together for me. It's so critical. It's so critical to learn to have a real relationship with this body in a way that we might not be comfortable with yet or used to, because we were kind of taught to dismiss it. It's something to use and abuse until it's done, and then it's going to die. It doesn't matter because it's going to die. But something to consider. We're not comfortable with this idea yet either, because it seems too fantastical to be true. But the idea of death, it actually comes from the false timeline. Another name for that group is a death cult. They're the death cult. They keep telling us this story about death, and then we see death. I'm not going to deny people obviously have passed away and died. We've all experienced death. But if we're in control of this experience, why do we die? Is it because we've been conditioned to think we have to? I think it is. Is it because we've seen other people do it and we just assume logically that this is the progression that we have to go down? I think it is. Is it comfortable to think of us as potentially being immortal in the body? That's kind of uncomfortable for a lot of us, because what would we have to do differently if we really were going to be in this body for quite a long time? We would probably approach it very differently if it wasn't something that we use up and then it's done.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
Right. So we're being faced with some new questions that bring up this new possible reality. Again, I mean, it's not comfortable yet. It's not comfortable to even assert it because it's so unfamiliar to us. But what if, what if death was a construct that was taught to us, but it's not actually a part of who we are? Why do we fear death so much? I mean, it's, why? These are just questions to ask. Why do we think we have to? Do you actually want to? I think most of us don't, right? We have this natural resistance to the idea of it.
Definitely.
So these are just some interesting questions to put out there and consider. Again, it's not something I'm like, this is the way it's going to be.
All food for thought.
I do think it's a choice. It's always been our choice. I think we're going to get more conscious of that choice. And I think we're going to start consciously making these choices as we move forward in time. I think in the beginning of this idea of extension of life or real possible immortality, I think we will get assistance first. I think that's what's going to be required, because I don't think any of us are ready to really just like take that on 100%. It's going to take time. But Amber, this has been fantastic. I want to do karma cards with you. But first, I want to ask you if someone wants to connect with you, wants to get in touch with you, wants to follow your work, where can they go?
They can go to my website at amberapproved.ca. There I have a free emotional eating quiz you can take if you're curious, if you're struggling with that. You can read more about food and body freedom. And also I do offer a 30-minute complimentary body freedom call if you want to connect and chat about your goals and struggles and what's holding you back. And then I have the podcast that you've mentioned that's available everywhere. And here on Facebook, I have a Facebook group called Women Choosing Body Freedom. So if you want to come and join, it's private. And it's just a great place to be in a community of women who are kind of, all on the same different path, but having similar experiences.
By the way, I see a ton of delicious recipes where I'm like,
yeah.
That?
Oh man, recipes. There's tons of recipes there, and they're all gluten, sugar, and refined sugar and dairy free, full of love. So yeah.
They look really delicious. And a lot of times they look like desserts that I'm like, she's like, you can eat this. And I'm like, yes.
Right? You have to have stuff. You can't, it can't just be salads all day. It's boring.
I know that. I'm not there yet. I want to do karma cards with you now. And I have Amber here with us. So Amber's going to play, and you guys can play along with us.
Yay.
There's my team. All right. So what we've got here for those who are new to karma cards is we've got 3 decks. I've got the planets, the signs of the zodiac and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what message do you have for us now? And let me look at that time period. Okay, we're at the 16th. Wow.
Already.
I know. Exciting times. Tomorrow's the new moon. Tomorrow, September 17th is the new moon. I'll be doing the new moon spirit circle. I think it's going to be amazing. For the 16th through the 21st, they said 16th through the 21st. I don't know what day the 21st falls on, but that's the number I got. And what we have here are two sets of answers. I have answers in red, and then I have answers in blue. The red are action-related answers, and blue are outcome. And the way that you play is you just need to tune in to your heart and feel, what do you need right now? Do you need an action-related answer? And if you're on Facebook, you can type in red, or if you want an outcome-related answer, you can type in blue. And I know a lot of my peeps like to type in both or purple. Absolutely do that. So again, this is for today, the 16th through the 21st of September. Why the 21st? Because we're the end of Virgo. That's when it transitions to Libra. Oh, okay. Tell you the flavor of this reading. So we have Jupiter. I love getting Jupiter. This is a very happy card, sign of expansion. Jupiter, by the way, has just gone direct. She's finally, or he rather, is finally out of retrograde. He's been in retrograde most of the year. So a lot of our growth or expansion was internally directed. And it was something that was, we were getting a lot of insights about what's going on inside. When it was in retrograde, though, for a lot of people, it felt like daily existential crisis. Like, why? Why is this happening? With it going direct now, we're going to see a lot of expansion, possibly I see actually financial flow happening with that. Also, just wherever we take responsibility, because Jupiter is in Capricorn right now, wherever we take responsibility, we will see growth. So the idea of taking responsibility for the ego or our sleep or how we're eating or how we're communicating with others is going to create expansion, which is so good. Then we have it in the sign of Virgo, which is where the sun is right now. I love it when they do this. Virgo rules the house of health. So this is so perfect for what we're talking about, because it's all about how we take care of ourselves and how we take care of others. And Virgo is also another, it's an earth sign. It is very responsible. All the earth signs have this beautiful sense of responsibility and understanding of what they need to do. So this is in that reading. And then we have the fifth house activated, I think for the second time in a row. I really love the fifth house. The fifth house is the fun house, the fun house. And it's ruled by Leo, but it talks about, this is the time of, the fifth house is a type of sovereignty, but it's also on the axis of creativity. And it's what we're creating for ourselves, right? So every element of creation, including, taking the time out to have fun, having romance, making art, whatever making art means to you, but creating, like making a good meal, like the beautiful meals I see Amber making, or actually like making a painting or playing outside. All of that play, that energy comes in. So creativity is always connected to, there's always a lightness when creativity is involved. Even when we're creating something serious in our life, the first thing we do is we imagine. And when we go into imagination, we go into the inner child aspect of ourself of, what will I be when, or what will I do when, ... that kind of energy, okay? All right, so for those who are choosing red or action, your spiritual action at this time, learn or teach the serving of others with the trust of a child. Learn or teach the serving of others with the trust of a child. So this is 100% going into service to others. There's a point that you made actually when we were talking, where we were talking about the ego, and I really want to clarify that when we're serving others, we need to make sure we are included in that, right? So not overscheduling, not overgiving, that is martyrdom, and that actually is a form of ego.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, it's like I am validating how good I am by how much I give.
Yeah.
Right? So when we are learning or teaching the serving of others with the trust of a child, number one, we're tapping into that inner quality. We're going all in this, but we're also making sure when we're learning or teaching this, we might be doing a lot of learning and then teaching by example. We need to make sure that others includes us. It's got to be the whole thing. If one piece is left out, it's actually not the unified field. So again, the serving of others means I fill my cup and then I pour into yours, because then I have enough. We both have enough. Right? So we're learning that aspect right now. Mental action. Be positive about the details of fun, romance, and making art. So be positive about the details. This kind of got me thinking again. I love how they connect it. This is all I told this before we had this conversation. So when I do this, I'm like, this is amazing. Be positive about the details of fun, romance, and making art. You talked about taking time for ourselves and making that space for ourselves. And when we're nurturing ourselves, fun is a part of that. Fun is, if it's in the house wheel of the zodiac, it's in the houses. There's a house dedicated for fun. We're in this. It's the 5th house is the fun house. So if we're in that, that's important that we are nurturing all aspects of ourselves. Self-nourishment also means like, am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying everything I take on? A lot of times, those of us who are overgivers, we give, and we think we're enjoying it until we realize we've emptied our cup a long time ago. And it hasn't been, and then we get resentful. We get resentful of the people who then depend on us or need us, or are looking for us to be consistent with how we are showing up. We start to resent that because why? We didn't balance ourselves out.
Yeah.
So be positive about the details. This also, details comes from Virgo. She's saying you need to step back and look at your life. How are you utilizing this life force energy? I want to let you know that the last spirit circle, they really talked about the fact that your energy conservation is an important element to learn right now. We're in a marathon. We're not done yet. And a seasoned runner at this point in a marathon would be pacing themselves. They would not be using all the energy they have. They would be reserving some because they have that awareness that there's still a stretch to go, right? So even if you just want to think there's still a stretch till the end of 2020, conserve that energy to, be positive about that, doing this and taking the time for yourself and making sure you're planning that time for yourself. That's going to have the positive impact you want in your life. Again, we're in a very uncomfortable territory for some of us because we're going to have to unlearn some behaviors and patterns to move forward in a healthier way. Physical action, grow and expand, do what you must and do it dramatically. What a combination. Grow and expand, do what you must and do it dramatically. That means what you're hearing right now, when I hear do it dramatically, I'm like, today's the day, right now, tonight, when I go to bed, I'm going to do it differently. There's no time to wait on this. And that's not please don't hear that as like a threat or something negative. It's just that now is the time to conserve it. There is only so much when you're in this far of the race. We're in the last quarter of a race, if you think about the year. And our energy conservation is something that we need to really look at. How do I use my energy? How do I use my time? Who am I spending it with? What am I giving it to? That was one I had to really adjust when I got the ego gift of like, oh my gosh, I'm putting energy into looking at stuff that's creating so much pain, right? And now the gift here is that I got the understanding, I'm attached here. I don't need to look anymore. My team was like, once you get it, you won't see it anymore. And the interesting thing is I made the choice to delete certain social media things from my phone because that's where I get caught up. I don't get caught up on my computer or my tablet. It's my phone. My phone with my itchy thumbs, they're like, touch things, touch things and read things. So I learned that for my energy conservation, it was, where am I looking? This is pulling energy out of me. It's not necessary. And what that gave me time to do was then look around and like, suddenly where I thought like I was running out of time, I got a whole bunch of time back because
Yes.
most of the time social media is a mind suck. It just sucks your time. And,
Totally, it does.
and I'm so grateful that you're here watching this, but still, maybe watch it in chunks, right? Like give yourself that opportunity. So do it dramatically just means whatever's resonating with you in terms of things you've heard tonight or things you're processing right now, wherever you got it from, do it now. There's no more, like, just implement, back away from something, slow down. That's probably one of the things you're hearing a lot. Slow down and just do it now. Okay. All right. So for those who are choosing blue or outcome, your spiritual outcome for Jupiter in Virgo in the 5th house is the granting of methods for the healing power of love.
Wow.
The granting of methods for the healing power of the power of love. So here's the gift, guys. If we do this dramatically, if we take the opportunity to implement right now, look at what you're getting. You're going to get the healing. That's going to be granted, and it's going to come through love, which is the strongest energy in the universe. It is what we are made of. It is the only thing that's truly real, is love, right? So this is the power of love, is a pretty mighty tool, and it's constantly flowing to us. We don't have to ask. All we have to do is open up to receive it. So if we're not feeling the healing and we're not feeling the love, it must mean that we're doing something that's kind of blocking us by accident most of the time. If you get an idea of how to do it differently, implement now. The mental outcome, blessings from the analyzing of investments or other investment gambles and other games. Okay. So investment gambles and other games, whenever I hear that, this is always about taking the risk. Doing something differently, even if it's healthy for you, feels risky. Am I right, Amber?
Yes.
Every time, right?
Yeah. It's uncomfortable.
Why? Why does it feel risky? I just want your input on that.
Well, I think a big part is because it's uncomfortable and there's a fear of the unknown. What's this going to look like? Who am I going to be? Right? A lot of the people that come to me go, I'm so scared. I don't know who I'm going to be without food. What's my identity going to be like if I'm not obsessed and focusing on weight and overbooked schedules, etc. And so I think that there's that huge part that really makes it feel risky. But of course, when you just take it slowly at your pace or you dive deep, whatever your preference is, you'll go, it was well worth the risk. Right? But it's being willing to step outside of your comfort zone and build a new identity slowly.
Beautiful. So they're saying there's blessings from thinking about, the risk. If you let's say your thing is watching movies till you fall asleep, and you're like, thinking about the things that I've heard tonight, that's probably overstimulating me, and it feels risky to stop doing that. What if I can't fall asleep? What if my mind's too busy? What if? We always have a reason why we're holding on to something. At least consider what you could gain and what's more important to you. Sometimes making changes, again, we get blessings where we take responsibility. That's what Jupiter is saying. You're going to expand and grow and be blessed where you take responsibility. So if you take responsibility that maybe you're not sleeping because of watching, a movie at night till you fall asleep, it's not the comfort and convenience that our ego definitely loves. And I'm so there. I get it. I totally get it. But there is an immediate blessing from that, and it has a cumulative effect. Just like negative behavior also has a cumulative effect, right? Might not harm you to have pizza for dinner one night, but if you have it for dinner every night, you're probably going to see a negative accumulation from that. So just understand that accumulation goes both ways. So we can actually start building up positive accumulation, taking responsibility. And then the physical outcome, good fortune resulting from the perfectionism of your creations. Oh, there's that word, perfectionism. Virgo's one of the things that they can get caught up is in perfectionism. So Virgo is about this perfecting process, right? Virgo, if I was talking to the sign Virgo right now, it could absolutely hear what I'm saying and be like, you're right. no more movies tonight. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, it could totally do that because of its desire to create a pure, it's a desire for purity. It wants to create a clear field. Okay, so resulting from perfection of your creations. So I'm going to take that word perfection and I'm going to change it to purity, so that we stop connecting to this idea that there's a right way to do it, and we reconnect to this idea of a pure creation. It means unsullied, right? I'm moving to a healthier creation. My creation is not going to be influenced by maybe my ego or influenced by the need for comfort. I'm not going to compromise maybe to my ego and compromise my creation. I'm going to stay in the purity. And they said there's good fortune when you do that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very much you will know it when you get there, because you'll get the divine download or the inspiration of what your pure creation looks like.
Yeah.
You healing. And you'll automatically know when the ego is trying to sully that or kind of take down the pure, because you'll have this weird guilty feeling of like, just, I can do it tomorrow. And then that's procrastination, and that's the ego pushing back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And one thing about that purity piece, I think that the self-love is that ultimate purity, because when you get there, you do treat yourself in a different way. You think in a different way. You show up in the world in a different way. You cope in a different way. And I think it's so important, because regardless of what anyone else thinks of you or, says about you, you can stand lovingly in your power and not take on other people's stuff. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about self-love, because there's this humbleness and confidence and enoughness, and no one else influences you at that point, especially back into like negative habits or questioning yourself, because now you've rediscovered your deep connection and trust.
That is such a good point. So when we allow the ego to influence the creation, we actually open the door to being influenced by others. That's a really good, strong point. So there's the difference between purity, right? It's often like, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard this one, Amber, when it comes to like something you're creating, like maybe for your business. There's a saying out there, don't share it until you've made it. Because as soon as you start sharing your idea with other people, it loses that kind of pure you creation. It starts getting influenced by other people, which is why, the many business coaches will be like, keep it to yourself and share it when it's ready. Mm-hmm. Right. And it also, it can also trigger you to feel like you've done it already. When you start talking about it before you do it, what that does, what your ego is like, well, I said I'd do it and that felt good. And I got the kudos and the cookies for saying that. Well, I don't need to do it because I feel good now. People.
Yeah.
Right. So again, the purity of your creation, I love what Amber said. That feels so right. It's like, it's the more you that's in it, the more your higher self is in it. That's where the good fortune comes from. Mm-hmm. So we are really trying to identify, again, Virgo wants us to analyze what's good for me, what's going to bring me happiness and joy, what's going to help me conserve my energy. That's a really good way to ask this during this time. What is a good way for me personally to conserve my energy? Let the answer come in. And then if you feel that ego pushback, the best that you can, just be like, aha, already a part is trying to interfere. And I'm going to, as much as I can, go back to the original intent, right? And again, with Virgo being an earth signs understand that it takes work to get what you want, but every single earth sign gets what they want. Why? Because they already have, you guys were blessed with a work ethic. Blessed with it. That's why a lot of earth sign people end up getting, they're the ones that can follow all the way through all the way through, because they've got a natural understanding that it's going to take work to get there. So as long as we stop looking at work as a 4-letter word and really see it as the road to healing, or the road to ascension, or the road to happiness, that is the road that's going to take us there, is that ability to, put one foot in front of the other and actually start right now, as the fifth house wants you to do. Start it now. So I want to say thank you so much to Amber Romaniuk.
You got it.
Her name's spelled differently than it sounds, so it really I have to call it the power.
No, you did
Amber,
great.
thank you so much for being here with me. You gave us amazing information, and I'm so pleased that we could connect and do this. Thank you again.
Me too. Thank you for having me. I'm super grateful, and I hope everyone took something away from our conversation.
Oh, they definitely will. Awesome. So thank you, Amber. And thank you to everyone on Facebook who I can't see right now. I'm sending you so much love. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.